They say one thing very clearly in the countryside: stand tall, stay real, and never bow your head in front of hard work. This land does not reward shortcuts. It rewards patience, sweat, and the courage to wake up every day and do the same work again without complaining. That was the mantra Elena grew up hearing, a simple belief passed from generation to generation, the kind of truth you don't find in books, but in soil, mud, and early morning silence. Elena believed that if your roots are strong, storms cannot break you. Respect the land, respect the animals, and success will follow slowly but honestly. Elena had been part of the duck farm for years, not as an owner born into luxury, but as someone who learned every step with her own hands. She remembered the first day she arrived here, when the farm was smaller, the ducks fewer, and the income uncertain. Back then, people laughed at the idea of focusing on duck eggs. They said chickens were easier, faster, and safer. But Elena saw something different. She saw strength in ducks, resilience in their nature, and value in their eggs. Duck eggs were richer, heavier, and demanded patience, just like the people who raised them. Every morning before the sun rose, Elena walked across the farm while the air was still cool and the grass wet with dew. The sound of ducks was already filling the surroundings, a low, steady noise that felt alive. To outsiders, it might sound chaotic, but to Elena, it was music. Each sound told her something: hunger, comfort, readiness to lay eggs. She had learned to listen without forcing control. Duck farming was not about dominance, it was about balance. The farm now held more than 1,000 ducks, moving freely between shelters, feeding areas, and water pools. Elena personally made sure the environment stayed calm. Stress affected egg production, and she knew that better than anyone. Calm ducks laid better eggs. Healthy ducks lived longer. Everything was connected. She believed that if you rushed nature, nature would punish you. If you respected its rhythm, it would reward you in silence. Egg harvesting days were always heavy, not physically alone, but mentally. Collecting over 1,000 eggs was not luck. It was the result of months of discipline. Feed quality mattered, water cleanliness mattered, shelter temperature mattered, even how workers walked through the sheds mattered. Elena trained everyone to move slowly, speak softly, and treat each duck as if it were valuable, because it was. As eggs were gathered throughout the morning, Elena stood nearby, watching carefully. She counted not just numbers, but quality. Shell strength, shape, cleanliness, and color all told a story about the duck's health. She rejected carelessness immediately. One broken egg was not just a loss of money, it was a sign something had gone wrong. That mindset made her strict but fair. The number crossed 1,000, but Elena didn't celebrate yet. Harvesting was only one part of the journey. Eggs were fragile, and the road to the countryside market was long and uneven. Transport could ruin a day's effort if done poorly. She personally supervised the packing. Trays were checked again and again. Crates were balanced carefully. No crate was overloaded. No corner was left unsupported. The truck waiting outside was old but reliable. Elena trusted machines the same way she trusted people, not by appearance but by performance over time. She made sure the truck bed was padded properly, reducing vibration during travel. Each movement was slow, controlled, and deliberate. There was no shouting, no rushing, no unnecessary risk. She believed speed destroyed value. As the truck finally began moving, dust rose behind it, mixing with the smell of feed and earth. Elena stood still, watching until the vehicle disappeared down the rural road. She knew what those eggs meant. They were not just products, they were proof. Proof that patience worked. Proof that her belief had not been wrong. Proof that the farm could sustain itself. The countryside market was unpredictable. Some days buyers argued endlessly over price. Some days demand exceeded supply. Elena understood market psychology well. She never begged buyers. She let quality speak. Duck eggs from her farm had built a reputation quietly. Vendors knew they lasted longer, broke less, and tasted richer. Trust took time, but once built, it was powerful. When the eggs reached the market, buyers inspected them closely. Elena watched from a distance, reading faces instead of words. Satisfaction was visible. Negotiations were firm but respectful. She never dropped prices out of fear. She priced according to value, not desperation. That confidence came from knowing her process was solid from start to finish. Money was important, but not more important than consistency. Elena reinvested most of the earnings back into the farm. Better feed, improved shelters, cleaner water systems. Growth was slow but stable. She didn't chase sudden expansion. She believed collapse followed greed. Stability followed discipline. As evening approached, Elena returned to the farm while the ducks settled down. She walked the same paths again, checking water, feed, and shelters. Even after a successful harvest day, the work never truly ended. Farming didn't pause for celebration. Tomorrow would demand the same attention, the same respect. She often thought about how far the farm had come, but she never let pride control her decisions. Pride made people careless. Elena stayed grounded. The mantra she lived by echoed again in her mind. Stay real, stay rooted, let results make noise, not words. There were still challenges ahead.
Feed costs were rising, weather patterns were changing, competition was increasing. But Elena was not afraid. She knew struggle was part of growth. Duck farming had taught her endurance, patience, and silent strength. As the night settled over the countryside, the farm rested quietly. Ducks slept, eggs waited to be laid, and Elena planned the next day in her mind. The story of this farm was still unfolding. Bigger harvests were coming. New decisions would need to be made. The road ahead was long, and Elena was ready to walk it step by step, without rushing, without fear, staying loyal to the land, the ducks, and the values that built everything from nothing.
Believed that consistency was more important than motivation. Motivation came and went, but consistency stayed if discipline was strong. She walked through the farm slowly, observing everything without interference. Ducks moved naturally, some toward feeding areas, others toward water. She watched how they behaved because behavior always told the truth. A restless duck meant discomfort. A quiet duck meant something was wrong. Over the years, she had learned to read these signs better than written reports. The success of harvesting more than 1,000 eggs the previous day did not make her. Elena waited until the eggs were fully sorted and counted before giving the signal to load them onto the truck. She did not believe in half-prepared movement. Every tray was checked one last time, not because she doubted the work, but because responsibility demanded certainty. The eggs were clean, shells firm, arranged carefully so no pressure fell unevenly. Elena watched silently as each crate was lifted. She noticed how hands moved, how balance was maintained, how no one rushed. This discipline did not come in one day. It had taken months to build. The truck stood still, engine off, as if waiting for permission. Elena preferred loading in silence. Loud voices caused mistakes. One by one, crates were placed inside, aligned perfectly to reduce movement during travel. She adjusted padding herself, pressing it into corners where vibration usually caused damage. She had learned that roads did not forgive carelessness. A small bump could destroy dozens of eggs if preparation was weak. When loading was complete, Elena climbed onto the truck bed briefly, inspecting everything from above. She counted again, not loudly, but in her head. Numbers mattered. Accountability mattered. Only when she was fully satisfied did she signal the driver to close the back. The doors shut gently, not slammed. Respect extended even to machines. As the truck started moving, Elena climbed into the passenger seat. She preferred to accompany the first trips herself. Presence reduced risk. The road ahead was uneven, passing through narrow countryside paths, small villages, and open stretches where speed tempted drivers to forget caution. Elena reminded the driver to keep a steady pace. Eggs did not care about deadlines. They cared about balance. The journey to the market was not long, but it demanded attention. Dust rose behind the truck, sunlight filtered through trees, and the countryside unfolded slowly. Elena watched everything quietly. She used travel time to think about costs, about demand, about whether the farm was ready for what might come next. Expansion was no longer a distant idea. It was approaching reality, whether she invited it or not. As they neared the market, activity increased. Sounds grew louder. People moved faster. Vehicles crossed paths unpredictably. Elena straightened her posture. Markets tested patience. They rewarded confidence and punished hesitation. She stepped down as soon as the truck stopped, her eyes already scanning familiar faces. Vendors noticed her immediately. Her arrival did not need announcements anymore. The unloading began carefully. Buyers gathered around, some curious, some confident. Elena did not interrupt. She allowed inspection. Strong shells spoke louder than promises. One buyer lifted an egg, turned it in his hand, nodded quietly. Another checked size consistency. There were no complaints. Elena remained calm, answering only when asked. Silence made people assume strength. Negotiations followed, as expected. Prices were discussed. Some tried pushing lower, citing market conditions. Elena listened without reacting. She knew her costs, she knew her quality. She did not argue emotionally. When she spoke, it was brief and clear. This was the price, this was the quantity. No exaggeration, no pressure. Some buyers accepted immediately. Others hesitated, walked away, returned again. Elena did not chase. She believed desperation smells bad in business. Gradually, crates began moving from the truck to vendor stalls. One deal led to another. Trust moved faster than words. A restaurant buyer approached, asking about regular supply. Elena did not commit fully. She discussed volume ranges, delivery days, and payment terms. She made no promises she could not keep. Reliability mattered more than excitement. The buyer respected that. They agreed to start small. By late afternoon, most eggs were sold. The truck stood nearly empty. Elena counted payments carefully, checking each amount without apology. Money demanded respect too. She noted everything mentally, already planning how much would go back into feed, maintenance, and future adjustments.
As the market slowed, Elena stood aside for a moment, watching people move. This place was noisy, chaotic, and fast. Yet her work had come from silence, routine, and patience. The contrast never failed to remind her why she trusted process over noise. When it was time to leave, Elena climbed back into the truck. The road home felt different, lighter. Not because money had been earned, but because responsibility had been fulfilled correctly. She did not smile widely. Satisfaction for her was quiet. The farm awaited her return. Ducks would need evening checks. Records would need updating. Decisions would continue. This market trip was only one step in a longer journey. Elena knew challenges were still ahead. Demand would grow. Pressure would increase. Choices would become harder. But as the truck moved away from the market, Elena remained steady. She did not think of success as a destination. She thought of it as alignment. As long as work, values, and decisions stay aligned, the story would continue forward, unfinished, growing slowly, shaped by discipline rather than speed.
Elena entered the market with calm confidence and chose her usual spot, a place where regular buyers expected her to be. She did not rush to open the crates. First, she observed the flow of people, the mood of the market, the pace at which money was moving. Experience had taught her that timing mattered as much as quality. When she finally opened the truck doors, the eggs were revealed neatly stacked, clean and uniform. That alone drew attention. People noticed order before they noted price. She began calling out softly, not shouting, not exaggerating. Her voice was steady, carrying assurance rather than desperation. Buyers approached, some familiar, some new. She greeted them with respect, never with flattery. Each crate was opened carefully for inspection. She encouraged buyers to check freely. Transparency built trust faster than any sales trick. Negotiations started slowly. Some tried to bargain aggressively, testing her limits. Elena listened patiently, then stated her price clearly. She did not argue. She did not justify excessively. Her tone made it clear that the price was based on value, not mood. A few walked away, expecting her to call them back. She didn't. She knew that those who valued quality would return. As time passed, steady sales began. Trays moved from her truck to buyers' stalls. Money exchanged hands fairly. A bakery owner purchased a bulk quantity, impressed by shell strength and size consistency. A restaurant buyer confirmed a future owner, satisfied with the freshness. Local vendors bought smaller amounts, trusting that customers would return for more. Elena kept her focus sharp. She counted eggs as they left, counted payments as they came. No distractions, no careless moments. The market noise faded into the background as she stayed locked into the process. This was not her first market day, but she treated it with the same seriousness as the first. Complacency was expensive. By midday, more than half the eggs were sold. The sun climbed higher, heat increased, and the market grew louder. Elena adjusted her pace, ensuring eggs were not exposed unnecessarily. She covered remaining crates lightly, protecting them while still allowing inspection. Small actions like these protected quality until the last sale. Buyers talked among themselves. Word spread that Elena's eggs were selling fast. Demand increased. A few buyers who had hesitated earlier returned, ready to accept her price. She welcomed them without comment. Business was not personal. It was about alignment of need and value. As the afternoon approached, the final crates were sold. The truck bed stood empty. Elena felt no rush of excitement, only a deep sense of completion. She organized the money carefully, separating cost from profit. Every note had a purpose. Every coin represented effort, patience, and discipline. Before leaving, she stood quietly for a moment, observing the market she had just worked through. The noise, the movement, the urgency. None of it controlled her. She had entered calmly and was leaving the same way. That balance mattered to her more than numbers. On the drive back, Elena reflected without emotion. The sale was successful, but success did not make her careless. Tomorrow would demand the same level of attention. Ducks would need care. Eggs would be laid in. Challenges would return. Farming did not reward rest for long. When she reached the farm, the evening light covered everything softly. Ducks settled in, unaware of markets and money. Elena walked through once more, checking water, feed, and shelters. This was where everything began, and where it always returned. She closed her notebook that night with a simple thought. Work done honestly always finds its place. The story of the eggs ended at the market, but the story of the farm continued quietly, rooted in discipline, patience, and the belief that real success never needed noise to prove itself. Elena stayed at the farm a little longer that evening than usual. The market day had ended, the eggs were sold, and the truck was parked quietly near the shed. As the sun dipped lower, a soft calm spread across the land. Ducks moved slowly, settling into rest. There was something peaceful in their movements, as if they sensed completion too. Elena walked among them without hurry. She spoke softly, not because ducks understood words clearly, but because intention mattered. She thanked them in her own way, gently, sincerely,